Hello, Rush Nation. We are back. This is Fast Action Friday, and the season is here after kicking off last night with the Lions at the Chiefs. To help me run through all the action, all the league news, we have an OG lineup for you today. Rob is here. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, that's right. We are the OGs. Obviously Lewis isn't here tonight, but he was definitely a welcome addition,
Oh
and
yeah,
hopefully he can check this out when he's back here. I just thought tonight I would just rep the t-shirt. I can just put it on there for those of
champions,
you
champions.
who are listening on the podcast. I am wearing my Champion of Champions t-shirt that myself and Pittsy earned last year. So the gauntlet is out there for anyone else who's in that league this year. Thank you very much to Stocks and Murph for that merch.
Yes, thank you.
We wear it very proudly. Um, yeah, it's great to be back and great to have a new season. We've got some of the same features we had last year, some of the same bold takes, some of the same takes that turn out to be a steaming pile of rubbish. But some of them
Usually
came
mine.
out good. So yeah, well, no, actually, some of yours were really good. I really liked some of
Well,
yours,
thank
and
you.
some of them did pan out. So hopefully we can start off with a really strong week this week. But first of all, let's start with one of our usual segments. It's Thursday Night Throwback. So yes, I imagine we will cover the score of this as we go on through this segment because we haven't actually put this at the start. We're going to go straight into quarterback coverage for this game, and as we know, Chiefs versus the Lions. Well, Lions versus the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Very tough environment for Detroit to go into. However, it was a far from sterling Patrick Mahomes opening weekend stat line. So after blowing the Cardinals away for 5 touchdowns in week one last year, he only managed 2 touchdowns this time around. Both came on short red zone plays. Not only that, he threw his first interception in any of his week one performances when he started, and that turned into a pick six from Brian Branch after Kadarius Toney deflected that pass. However, this wasn't a case of Mahomes not doing his job. He did exactly what he needed. We saw those glimpses of what we're used to seeing with Mahomes. He scrambled when he needed to scramble. He kept plays alive. He passed when needed. He threw away when needed. In fact, this was a combination of drop passes. Tony and a few others were primary culprits, and some exquisite, in my opinion, Lions defending later on in the game. Plenty of opportunities for Mahomes to make the difference, but the Lions they kept him at bay. His final stat line: 21 of 39 for 226 yards with 2 touchdowns and that interception, and then he also got 45 yards off his 6 carries. On the other side of the ball, Jared Goff was a fantasy revelation last year. I think we can all agree we weren't expecting to do what he did, but their expectations are the same this year. And straight away, there were even signs of him making those quick decisions, throwing the ball into the turf to avoid a pressure pass and a hit very early on in this game. So the signs were looking good. The offensive line, they gave him time to make those moves. He moved the ball downfield in conjunction with his running backs, and he even had enough time to make those reads to make that red zone touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was a little uncertainty as the game progressed, as the Chiefs adapted, but we saw really good connections with St. Brown, with Josh Reynolds, rookie tight end Sam Laporta. I know a lot of people will be pleased about that. And against a rough opponent in a tough, hostile environment, Goff was an active component in Dan Campbell getting his first opening weekend win and the Lions' first weekend win since 2017. His final stat line: 22 of 35 for 253 yards and a touchdown with 2 yards and 2 carries. I haven't included his kneel downs there as well, but a really good stat line for Goff. Ended up with the better quarterback rating of the two.
Oh, it was. Watching the highlights this morning. It was. Yeah, both teams still they showed us what they were doing at the end of last season. It just didn't
Yeah,
seem to
definitely.
come together. Didn't come together for the Chiefs, and I think a lot of that is down to that D that the Lions have got going. So the fair play to them,
Mm,
fair play. All right, so we're going
yeah,
to
yeah.
head on to the offensive coverage. The Lions' offense just has some weapons. That line allows Goff to stand there and quite some time pick out his receivers, which
Mm,
it's good to see, and he needs it to be fair. When you have a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown, he just opens things up for Goff. it's also looking like it's a well-balanced offense as well. And you throw in the running backs from Montgomery and the rookie Gibbs. I mean, a few people scoffed at how the Lions took him so high up in the draft. But looking at some of his big-time runs, you can see what they saw in him. So it was nice. Quick rundown of the Lions stats then. Monty had 24 rushes for 74 yards and a touchdown. Gibbs, he had 742, 2 receptions for 18 yards. He starts the season with a nice 6 yards per carry.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, St. Brown, he got 9 targets, 7 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. Josh Reynolds was in favour over Marvin Jones for the wide receiver 2 job. Reynolds got 7 targets, 4 receptions, 80 yards. Jones did get 6 targets, but he only caught 2 for a massive 8 yards. So it'll be interesting to see when Williams comes back. Obviously, which 3. I'm looking at it. Reynolds seems to be playing all right at the moment. Obviously, just a quick point as well. Rookie tight end Laporta, he held on to all 5 of his targets for 39 yards. So a nice little start for him too. Chiefs, I mean, you just spoke about Mahomes. He was doing his thing. He flashed his usual offensive prowess, but he had some wide open targets, some nice gaps kind of going through when they were available. But without Kelsey, they just lacked that extra edge. I mean, they moved the ball on occasions, but just when it mattered, it just didn't seem to be working for him. Obviously, that you mentioned Tony with his wide open, the ball just went straight through his hands for that pick 6, which just didn't help at all. It just didn't seem like it was the Chiefs' night. Chiefs stats quickly. Pacheco, 8 rushes, 23 with 4 for 4 on receptions and 31 yards. The running game just didn't seem to go because CEH 6 for 22 and the Lions pretty much just stopped the run for both of those two. Sky Moore, this is where it gets a bit fun. Sky Moore, 3 targets, no catches. Tony, 5 targets, 1 catch for a massive 1 yard, and obviously that pick 6 as well. Rookie Rashee Rice got 5 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards. So that's quite a positive for them, which is going forward is good. And they also got that big touchdown as well, which was great to see. MVS 2 for 2, 48 yards. Justin Watson was involved, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 45 yards. Gray, the tight end, after Kelsey kind of was out, he got 5 targets, 3 receptions, 31 yards. Blake Bell, he had 3 targets, 2 catches, 12 yards, and a touchdown. So when you're kind of looking at it, you can see that there's many players involved, just lacking that bit of magic that Kelsey just seems to have. But again, was that all down to the Lions D?
I want to say that when Kelsey comes back in, like they've been very clearly running the plays for Kelsey, like the fact that Gray had all those connections, wide open targets for Gray in quite early on in the game. Blake Bell got the touchdown as well. I reckon that would have been Kelsey's had he been playing. Something that the Lions did really well in this game was they really stopped any kind of like end around from the wide receivers. They put them to bed very, very quickly. And I think something that is quite telling in here is Jerick McKinnon only had 1 catch for 10 yards, which destroyed my fantasy team, unfortunately. I think a lot of people expected him to do more with Kelsey being out. But also in his stead, Isaiah Pacheco getting 4 receptions from 31 yards. I believe that continues a trend that happened at the end of last season where he was more involved in the pass catching game. So we might see McKinnon in his age start to fade out and Pacheco actually getting a more of a bell cow role rather than just being the early down back. Quite good value if you manage to get Pacheco for where you got him last season. But I think Kelsey being not only a target hog but also a big distraction for defenses will help these other players get into more space. They won't get as much coverage. So we'll see some of these players do much better and have more time to adjust themselves, catch the ball. But like you said, it's the Lions D did not give any time for these players to do what they do. They were superb. The depth up front really shone, gave the Chiefs O-line a lot to worry about that night. Rookie Brian Branch has been getting so much praise in this offseason, and him and the other players in the secondary did a superb job, made it very difficult for those skilled players. Branch reacted very quickly to the bubble pass to make that pick 6, brought the Lions back into the game, gave them some new life when things were getting a little bit uncertain, they got a bit frustrated. They closed down a lot of that running attack. It's important not to jump at the gun on these Chiefs players. They were just really outclassed by a well-drilled and determined, Dan Campbell defense. The Chiefs unit, they came away with some important point scoring plays if you had them in your fantasy lineup. So they had a fumble recovery, forced fumble and recovery from Jahmyr Gibbs, his first ever fumble. So hopefully he'll put that aside and not have any more. They also got the sack on Goff as well. So if you have the sacks scoring in your league, that will give you some points as well. There were some outstanding performances from several in the unit, but I think this just shows that if the offense isn't performing to its usual standard, they're going to have to work hard to keep the team in the game.
Yeah, great point. I just like the way that the Lions D run by Dan. They just seem to be all together, all for one, and just absolutely, like I say, biting knees, isn't it? Biting in knees.
Oh yeah, they will. They clearly do.
No, good. Right then, we're moving on to the injury report. All right, just like last season, we're going to give you a quick rundown of a few players just to keep an eye on over this weekend period to try and work out whether they're going to be in your lineup or not. Starting off with some more tight end news, the lovers hate to hear. Mark Andrews had a really good chance to make waves in week 1 with Travis Kelce being questionable and obviously out last night, but he has now been limited in practice with a quad injury. So a little dink in Todd Monken's passing revolution. So we'll see how they get on with that.
Well, Sam Laporta at the moment, tight end 1. Boop, boop. A lot of people will be pleased about that until the Sunday slate starts. Marquise Brown, he's also been limited in practice this week because of a hamstring injury. So that takes even more weapons away from the Cardinals' offense. And based upon their general direction, I doubt they're going to be rushing him back. We've seen that hamstrings can be quite risky to rush back as well. You don't want to be too careful. Cooper Kupp getting his further injuries after his off-season recovery.
I know it.
Yeah, we saw that really poor rep, a video of a really poor rep from Marquise Brown where he looked really outclassed. So hopefully he'll be back soon and he'll be playing much better than that. However, if you think about my team, the Carolinas, their whole starting wide receiver group could be out this week. They're at risk of missing the opener. Adam Thielen, he's got a lingering ankle injury. Terrace Marshall has a back injury, and now DJ Chark has been ruled out for week 1 with a hamstring injury. So it's going to be Emir Smith-Marset to the moon if you want to take a chance on Carolina's receivers.
Brilliant. It seems to be wide receiver heavy this time. Jerry Jeudy's managed to practice in limited capacity after worries about his hamstring. Let's see if he can overcome it and boost up that depleted passing attack this weekend. Another team missing some wideouts, Green Bay. The Packers are on thin ice on who to start at wide receiver. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Dontavian Wicks are all holding hamstrings. It's a bad time to have hamstrings. Hopefully, at least one of them can make it through to play week 1.
I mean, that would leave Jaden Reed, maybe as one of their only healthy wide receivers. I think Stocks really likes Reed. So this could be a great opportunity for Reed to take a step forward and for Stocks to prove them haters wrong.
There you go.
Zach Moss is back to practice in a limited fashion after breaking that bone in his arm. It's unlikely that he's going to make it to the game squad for week 1 because of the stable of running backs they've got behind him. But you never know. He might pop up and make some plays. But why would you want to risk, an arm break when you've got, Deion Jackson and Evan Hull and, all the other ones who can take over as well.
Exactly. A couple of running backs actually to go along with that one. Ramondre Stevenson, he was missing from practice today. No injury news with it from Thursday, so something to watch over the coming days. There's not really any news on that just yet. Kenneth Walker, he was limited with a groin injury on Thursday, so again, another one to watch. And last but not least, another wide receiver, Terry McLaurin. This is good news. He was limited this week, but has no injury designation going into the weekend and should be good to go for the Cardinals game. Yes.
So not only do the Cardinals lose a wide receiver 1, the Commanders gain a wide receiver 1.
Yeah. All right, let's finish off, as we always do, with weak points. I realise we're not finishing up on weak points. We're going through weak points first.
Yeah.
Anyway, So this is where we go weakest against. Okay, so you can try and work out whether you can play some of your players against some of these areas that are weakest to play against, or strongest for you guys to play against. So we're going up for the quarterbacks first. Fantasy Pros put the Lions, Dolphins, and Chiefs as the worst quarterback against the quarterbacks. Though two of the teams went up against each other last night, so technically one is the worst, one is the best as it stands. Dolphins come up against the Chargers, so Justin Herbert can start off an MVP campaign with a blistering performance at the weekend if the Finns defense starts as it finished last year.
Absolutely, and I definitely slipped Josh Reynolds into some of my flex positions, and he would have been my flex of the week, as he has been several times over the last few seasons. However, I think that would be a bit unfair for me to put him in after delivering what he got last night. Weakest against running backs last year, Fantasy Pros had the Texans, the Bears, and the Seahawks as the worst three defenses against the running backs. The Texans play the Ravens. We know what they like to do with the running backs, but will it be different this year with that pass attack? The Bears play the Packers, and the Seahawks play the Rams. And a question for you, Pittsy, who do you fancy to dominate out of those three opponents?
Well, when you look at, you just talked about all the wide receivers for Green Bay being out. I am liking Jones to be running wild against the Bears D there. So, yeah, I'll go with the Packers running backs to play nicely this weekend. All right, weakest against the wide receivers. We've got Titans, Vikings, and Lions were the three that are weakest against the wide receivers in 2022. Tennessee faced the Saints. Minnesota are up against the Bucks, and the Lions, as we know, faced the Chiefs last night, but they didn't do too bad, really.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think they proved some haters wrong with that game, like with how many yards and receptions people ended up with comparison to the number of targets they received. I think they did pretty well in that game.
Especially against those two who were kind of slated to be their 1 and 2 wide receivers. They didn't really do anything. So, yeah, I think they faced them quite well last night.
We'll have to see what the Saints do against the Titans, because if Olave does what he did last year, but they've also got Michael Thomas back, that could be quite a tough duo for the Titans to face. Yeah, and then Mike Evans, he's cleared his injury designation as well. Obviously, he's got the trade talks at the moment, and there's talks that Godwin and Evans could be out the door this year if the Bucs are looking at a rebuild. But if they start strong and they do play in Minnesota, could be having one of those high-scoring games. We know that they are good to have, a one-score game. They got a lot of one-score games last year, so there's a chance that this could also be a shootout as well.
Yeah.
Weakest against tight ends, and we talked about these three teams a lot last year because it virtually stayed unchanged for the entirety of the 2022 season, and that is the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins. The Cardinals get the Commanders, the Seahawks get the Rams, and the Finns get the Chargers. So that's two areas where the Chargers stand to dominate against their opponents. With Cooper Kupp out, I'm sure we will see the ball target pivot towards Tyler Higbee, but if Logan Thomas stays on the field, he could be an old friend for Sam Howell. Ignore that. It says, should Terry McLaurin not make the team this weekend? Well, he has. That's even more of a threat then. So, let's stick with Tyler Higbee, and that links very nicely onto Flex of the Week. So you get no prizes for guessing who my flex of the week is going to be this week, and it is Tyler Higbee, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. Several factors here play into my choice. Tyler Higbee is an old friend. He's an old head in the Rams team. One of the last men standing from their Super Bowl postseason run. They've cleared house quite a few times since then. And he's one of the veterans that Matt Stafford can trust and actually knows the name of. He hasn't got him in his book on his cheat sheet. He will know who Tyler Higbee is. And especially as Cooper Kupp isn't going to make week one, he's going to be turning to him as one of his favourable reads in this game. I believe the Rams will be playing from behind. So there's going to be a lot of passing going on in this game as well. And as we said in weak points, the Seahawks are one of the worst teams against the tight end position last year. And we do like to think that some teams will identify that problem and turn it around. But the great additions they've made this offseason, Devin Witherspoon and Jamal Adams, Witherspoon's questionable with a hamstring injury. Jamal Adams is officially out this week. And they're not the only players in the secondary who are out this week. So it's going to be a weakened secondary that Higbee will come up against. I think there's a lot of factors there that will play into him being. I don't want to go too bold on the first week, but a top six tight end this week.
Oof. Well, we've already spoken about with a couple of injuries to the tight ends. It's all to play for, so that's fair play. I do like that pick. No, I do like that pick though. So that is good. All right, and so I have gone with Brian Robinson this week. So it's not Bajan. Brian Robinson. All right. So it's not a sexy pick, but the Cardinals are on their little tank job, and Washington could take advantage of that very nicely this weekend with the first game. Not only that, but Sam Howell has only played in one game, don't forget, at the end of last season. So they may well try and help him out with the running back work to take off that pressure.
Wow, really? He's only played in one game? That is that was unexpected. I thought he would have played in more. Like, based on how he's been talked about, I thought he'd played in at least half the season last year. I don't know whether or not it's
the last game of the season, and that was it.
Wow. Was the stat line all right?
To be honest, I haven't looked at his stats, but the way that who's Washington coach now?
Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, it was them and who's the head coach? My mind has
Ron
just gone
Rivera.
blank. That's it.
Ron Rivera.
So Big Ron, he was chatting him up saying he couldn't believe that he didn't play him sooner because he saw some and we should have put him in earlier and this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, we shall see how this goes out for him. But yeah, like I say, to take a little bit of the pressure off, the running backs are going to work for him, and I feel that Brian is definitely the better of the two of their main running backs.
Yeah, well, I did say in my preseason Fast Action Friday that Sam Howell could be my flex of the week at some point, just because of how well he's clearly incorporated into that offense, because I think he's played for more than one game, but also the staff around him and how much they believe in him, and like you say, these players around him will be giving him that support and allowing him to grow in confidence throughout the season. So yeah, I like this pick as well. I like both the Commanders.
It was hard to choose, but I like Brian Robinson a little bit better. So
yeah, well, yeah, we'll see how both those pan out. I've been listening to Around the NFL. There are other podcasts out there available, but I know they've been looking at their picks for this season and like betting sandwiches. I think that's quite a nice, nice idea. How about we do like a bet? The people who get we'll do it each week, and the person who gets the best flex score out of the choices gets a point, and the person with the most points at the end of the year, they get a sandwich from the other two.
Yes, love that.
Yeah,
a proposition, which we'll call the propositions. That's what the ACM and the Around the NFL team call them, isn't it? So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because they can't bet, can they? They're not allowed to bet.
Yeah, not allowed to bet.
Yeah. We'll come up with what the exact rules are. So maybe it's like certain positions outside the top something, for the week, and then we have to work out who's going to be the better out of the rest. So I think that'd be quite a nice way to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, Sweet. And I'm sure Lewis will be on board as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He'll let us know.
Yeah.
Right, there we have it. We are almost at the main Sunday sledge for week one. I am absolutely buzzing that the season is back. So, are you able to watch anything this weekend?
I am, yeah. Yeah, we'll be watching the early slate on our streaming service.
Nice.
Via Chicago. Yeah. We're not quite Pirates, but because we're still paying the NFL. So yeah, we will be. I'll be watching the Red Zone with Scott Hansen with maybe four of his hours of commercial-free football.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be missing.
What about yourself?
I'm missing out on the Steelers game because it's live on Sky and I don't have Sky Sports anymore because I went for Game Pass last season.
Yeah.
I do have Game Pass this season on, obviously, the Zone, but it'll be blacked out, so I won't be watching that. So I'll probably be on Red Zone for the whole 7 hours of commercial-free football, which I am looking forward to.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. 6 o'clock Sunday. I'm on that
There we
couch and
go.
no one is moving me.
Done. Yeah. Nice one. Well, thank you very much, Rob, and Rush Nation. Until next week, keep rushing.